Have you ever wondered why some nations seem permanently stuck in poverty, while others rise to unimaginable wealth, influence, and global power? Not because of natural resources, not because of intelligence, culture, or hard work, but because of a hidden financial cycle, a repeating system that almost never makes the news, yet quietly determines who rises, who collapses, and who gets trapped for generations. A cycle so old it predates modern banking, so profitable that entire empires have killed to protect it, and so subtle that most of the world still can't see it happening in real time. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the secret cycle that keeps nations poor and empires rich. A loop built on debt, extraction, and engineered dependence. Let's begin. Have you ever wondered why some nations seem permanently stuck in poverty, while others rise to unimaginable wealth, influence, and global power? Not because of natural resources, not because of intelligence, culture, or hard work, but because of a hidden financial cycle, a repeating system that almost never makes the news, yet quietly determines who rises, who collapses, and who gets trapped for generations. A cycle so old it predates modern banking, so profitable that entire empires have killed to protect it, and so subtle that most of the world still can't see it happening in real time. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the secret cycle that keeps nations poor and empires rich. A loop built on debt, extraction, and engineered dependence. Let's begin. To understand the cycle, we have to go back, not decades but centuries, before central banks, before the IMF, even before the modern nation-state. Because the pattern started with something deceptively simple. The moment money became a tool of control, not a tool of trade. In the 1600s, empires like Britain, Spain, and the Dutch Republic discovered something revolutionary. Conquering land wasn't the most profitable way to rule the world. Controlling money was. Merchants became bankers. Bankers became advisors. Advisors became the unseen architects of policy itself. And in the shadows of early European finance, a new formula was born. The same formula that later shaped colonialism, modern banking, foreign aid, and global development programs. A formula built on debt dependence, resource extraction, and controlled instability. We're about to trace that formula from its origins to its rise to its breaking point, and how it still traps entire nations today. The story begins with an almost invisible shift in power. In the 1600s, European rulers faced a problem. Wars were expensive. Treasury gold ran dry. Economies stalled. Traditional taxation wasn't enough. Enter private lenders, wealthy merchant bankers who offered kings a deal. They would finance wars in exchange for influence, interest, and collateral. That collateral wasn't land. It wasn't gold. It was future national income. For the first time, a nation's economy could be owned before it even existed. This created the world's earliest form of national debt. But it also created something more dangerous. A blueprint for controlling countries through structured financial dependence. Once a nation entered this arrangement, leaving it was almost impossible. Every war required new loans. Every crisis required new credit. Every debt required more concessions. Debt became the empire builder. Fast forward to the 18th and 19th centuries. Colonial empires didn't just conquer land, they engineered economies. Instead of building local industries, colonizers designed colonies as raw material suppliers, cheap labor zones, captive markets for foreign goods. This wasn't incompetence. It was strategy. A nation that cannot produce finished goods. A nation that depends on outside capital. A nation that imports more than it exports. Is a nation permanently stuck in the losing side of the cycle. By the time the 20th century arrived, formal colonialism collapsed. But the financial structures remained. The world moved from empires of land to empires of finance. International banks replaced colonial governors. Structural loans replaced military rule. Debt replaced direct occupation. The extraction continued quietly, automatically, legally. Most countries try to escape the cycle at some point. It usually starts the same way. A new leader promises independence. A new development plan emerges. A country borrows to build infrastructure, factories, or national industries. But here's the twist. These loans often come with conditions. Conditions that force nations to open their markets before they can compete, cut subsidies that support local industries, privatize resources, freeze public spending, reduce protections for workers, accept foreign investors as primary stakeholders. In theory, this modernization should help nations grow. In reality, many countries collapse under the weight of reforms designed to benefit creditors, not citizens. Once a nation defaults, the cycle tightens. Debt restructuring comes with even harsher conditions. Assets are sold off. Foreign corporations move in. Local industries shrink. The currency weakens. Prices rise. Governments lose autonomy. The country becomes financially dependent. Again, just like it was during colonial rule. Different era. Same mechanism. When the cycle takes hold, its effects ripple through entire populations. The poor get poorer because currency devaluations raise food, fuel, and housing costs. The middle class shrinks as wages fail to match inflation and job markets collapse under foreign competition. National industries die because they cannot compete with multinational corporations backed by trillion-dollar economies. Governments weaken because political decisions must be approved by creditors, watchdogs, or financial institutions. And while citizens suffer, someone else gets richer. Because every payment, every interest charge, every restructuring fee, every profit from privatized assets flows upward, from struggling nations to wealthy ones, from local economies to global financial hubs. This is the quiet transfer of wealth baked into the system. Over the last 50 years, dozens of developing countries have attempted to break free. Some tried protectionism. Some tried rapid industrialization. Some tried state-controlled development. Some tried free market liberalization. Most failed, not because their ideas were flawed, but because the cycle adapts. When countries closed markets, sanctions arrived. When they opened markets, foreign giants crushed them. When they built national industries, credit ratings dropped. When they rejected loans, currencies crashed. When they accepted loans, sovereignty vanished. The problem isn't the strategy. The problem is the structure. The global financial system rewards dependence and punishes independence. And it's designed to do exactly that. This isn't ancient history. It's happening right now. Over 60% of low-income countries are currently in debt distress. The Global South pays over $400 billion per year in interest alone. For every $1 sent as aid, roughly $3 leaves in profit, debt payments, or resource extraction. And when these nations struggle, the same institutions step in with the same solutions that cause the problems. Meanwhile, rich nations benefit from strong currencies built on the weak currencies of others, cheap imported labor and resources, capital flight from unstable economies, interest payments from poor nations, strategic control over global supply chains. The cycle repeats generation after generation, and every repetition makes the rich richer and the poor poorer.